When I first reviewed SkyDrift back in 2011, I lamented that there weren't enough aerial racing games. One could point to Diddy Kong Racing or maybe Bravo Air Race, but I think we can all agree that airplanes lag far behind cars and motorcycles and even boats. Sadly, things have not changed much in the last decade. While games like Sonic and All-Stars Racing transformed, and even Grand Theft Auto Online have allowed players to take to the sky, our choices are still extremely limited if all you want to do is race airplanes. That's why I was so excited to see developer Digital Reality announce SkyDrift Infinity. I loved the original game, and I'm always up for a good air race, so sign me up for more of that. But just how much more content are we actually getting? Well, the answer to that question may surprise you. SkyDrift Infinity is an arcade-style, weapons-based racing game that sees 8 pilots flying above exotic location in hopes of coming in first. It's a lot like Sony's Wipeout series, only instead of using futuristic hovercrafts, we speed through the sky using airplanes. It's fast and extremely forgiving, always prioritizing fun and excitement over realism. In other words, if you're looking for a deep and realistic flying experience, then you're just better off sticking with Microsoft's newest flight simulator. It's also worth mentioning that this is not a game about aerial dogfights. Yes, we're shooting bullets and firing missiles at the opponents, but it's in the framework of a traditional racing game. There's always a course to race through, complete with invisible walls to keep you on the track. The good news is that it's easy to see where you're supposed to be going, even when you're feeling that very specific need for speed. This is smart, because there are always eye-catching events going on throughout the level. No matter if you're screaming through canyons, into tunnels, or between a destroyed boat, there are usually a lot of markers keeping you focused on the track. Now, as a single-player game, SkyDrift Infinity is split up into 7 different levels, each with 6 increasingly difficult events to complete. There are 3 types of races in all, none of which will come as much of a surprise. There's a standard power race where you race through 2 or 3 laps in order to come in first, a speed race where you fly through hoops to gain speed, and a survivor race where a timer counts down and eliminates who's ever in last place until there's only one pilot left. Look, you've seen all these modes in countless other games, though rarely are you able to barrel roll your way through a tight gap next to an erupting volcano, and that's pretty cool. The reason that this works so well is because piloting the airplane is a breeze. Instead of overcomplicating things, Digital Reality has kept SkyDrift Infinity as simple as possible. You use the right trigger to accelerate and the right analog stick to bank around especially tight corners. There's also a turbo gauge that will fill up by performing daring stunts, such as flying close to the ground or speeding through a small opening in the rocks. In most of the game modes, there will be power-ups and weapons lining the course. Picking up these items is the only way to attack your enemies, though players can still choose to ditch those items for a small speed boost. The items are all fairly standard fare for kart racing games, including missiles, electronic blasts, shields, mines, and so on and so forth. Players have the ability to double up on each of these weapons, as well as hold 2 different items at the same time. Learning how and when to properly use these power-ups mean the difference between winning and losing, especially in the later levels. Among the many things that I loved about the original 2011 release, the various racing locations were always my favorite. From the snowy mountains to the tropical islands, these courses are often bright, vibrant, and bursting with small, eye-catching details. In the dam stage, for example, you'll have to fly around man-made buildings, while in another stage, the only thing you have to worry about is nature. Sometimes the levels will even fight back, such as a building falling or a bridge collapsing above you. These changes to the level are fairly subdued, so don't expect anything along the lines of something like Split Second. Remember that game? The only real problem with the locations is that there aren't enough of them. This was also a problem with the original release of SkyDrift, which was often criticized for quickly becoming repetitive. Things are no different in this re-release, which is easily the most disappointing aspect of SkyDrift Infinity. This would have been the perfect time to boost the number of courses from 6 to maybe 10 or, I don't know, even 12. Let's go crazy! But alas, this is not that kind of re-release, so we're stuck playing through each of the stages multiple times, both forwards and backwards. And that brings me to the bigger problem with SkyDrift Infinity. As far as I'm concerned, the name wildly oversells what you're getting in this package. This is the original SkyDrift with some technical enhancements and minor additions. Nothing more. Don't get me wrong, bumping up the resolution and improving the frame rate are important enhancements that definitely make this game better. But let's be clear about what this actually is. It's a remastered port. Anybody hoping for a wealth of new content to combat the original game's repetition will likely be disappointed by Infinity. But look, if you can get over the letdown that this isn't a brand new sequel, then you'll still find a lot of good reasons to play SkyDrift. For example, there are a couple of new aircrafts that have been taken from publisher THQ's catalog of titles, such as Darksiders. You'll also find big improvements to the multiplayer mode, especially when it comes to the local split-screen action that has been designed for up to 4 players. There's also an improved, but still bare-bones, online multiplayer mode allowing for you to race against the rest of the world. Best of all, this new version will be the first time that PlayStation 4 and 5 owners will have a chance to experience the fun of SkyDrift. Yeah, that's pretty cool, but I still would have preferred a sequel. Even if it's not the long-awaited follow-up that fans have been hoping for, SkyDrift Infinity is a solid port of a great aerial racing game. It has gorgeous graphics, vibrant locations, recognizable power-ups, great tunes, and accessible gameplay that anybody can get into. It's also a blast when playing against friends, both online and off. If you're one of those people who missed out on the high-speed thrills when the game first came out, then do yourself a favor and race through SkyDrift Infinity. Longtime fans, on the other hand, may be left disappointed by the woeful lack of substantial new content. Yeah, forget about going to Infinity and beyond. I just want to play SkyDrift 2. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is your favorite type of racing game? Do you prefer cars, motorcycles, arcade action, simulation? Let me see your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a review of The Falconeer, which is a flying game with a very, very different theme. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,